This week on Seeds of Gold, we continue to tap into the brains of Nicholas Matiko as we proceed to explore the other side of the farm for other activities happening on the farm awaiting us. Coming up on Seeds of Gold.
In farming, every coin saved makes a difference.
We start at the solar pump station right in the courtyard. These work tremendously during the dry spell. He explains the oxygenation method.
We have solar pumps, and the purpose of these solar pumps is to help keep moving the water in our reservoir such that the water doesn't remain stagnant and then hence becoming stale, and also acting as a breeding ground for mosquitoes. We have the reservoir up, we'll see. Before we had a challenge of the water becoming a breeding ground for mosquitoes, and the mosquitoes were almost chasing us here. So the first thing we did was put in chemicals like chlorine, but because it is an exposed reservoir, so the chlorine would break down in the under UV light, that is sunshine, and the mosquitoes would return in a short while. And also chlorine was expensive, and there was no easy way of mixing it in uniformly. So on a further reading, we came up with a simple oxygenation method. You pick the water from the delivery line, drop it back into the reservoir, and in the process you are creating like running water, which is well oxygenated. And once we did it, the first thing that disappeared were the mosquitoes. Then secondly, the water remained fresh, there was no growing of algae, and also the cows were able to take the water as normal. So that is the purpose of this. There are 4 smaller solar pumps. Whenever it's shining, then they pick water from here and drop it back in the reservoir, and that continues as long as there is sunshine.
For prospective farmers out there, the 2 most important things to put under consideration are water and land. Once you have the 2, farming can be easier, I should say. This 630 liters of water reservoir plays a vital role on this farm.
We started constructing this reservoir in 2010, and apart from the land that we acquired slowly, this was our major project here. Before even we thought of going zero grazing. And the reason was because this is an area that usually gets a lot of water stress, especially during the dry spell. So we wanted to have water security by having a bigger storage capacity and also a bigger valley tank so that we don't run out of water even during the dry season. But we also had an intention of doing irrigation to grow animal fodder during the dry season, which intention we still carry. The challenge has been on the distribution system. It is still expensive, and we are still trying to figure out the cheapest way to distribute this water into our gardens.
How deep is this reservoir? How do you even clean it?
We are at 11 feet here and 8 on the other side, so it slants. It keeps slanting for easy washout. We also put in barriers, so we wash it out in intervals. So we start with the upper chamber. Once we have cleaned and there is water this side, so we allow water to be pumped by these solar pumps the other side, so that we don't expose the surface to the sun. Then we can clean the second chamber until the last chamber, and then we can pump the water back.
At this farm, Nicholas employs quite a number of youth, which solves one other big problem faced by our society lately.
We have a mixed farming enterprise here. Although dairy is our major project, we have the bananas as also our second major project here. And the area costing for my cows also includes the cost for my plantation, because the workers who work in the farm also work in the plantation. We have 15 permanent employees, both for the plantation and also the animals this side. These are the quarters for the workers, and we're also trying to, in future we're demolishing this old house and also extending another line of quarters facing this side. The reason is we also want the workers to be comfortable and in their own individual units. But also another reason is we have started receiving interns from these institutions, especially Makerere. And when they come in here, they also want a comfortable place to sleep in. So sometimes we find we reserve some rooms for the interns. For example, now we're expecting like 15. And one, it's a training that we offer to them, but also we house them, we feed them, which also becomes an income for the farm. And also the little labor that they put in also helps to reduce the cost, the overall costs of this farm.
It's amazing how Nicholas manages to keep all these projects up and running. Uganda at this point in time needs such determined entrepreneurs so we can chase away poverty. However, at the time of our visit, the bananas had been affected by the storm. The plantation sits on 6.5 acres of land, which Nicholas believes is enough for now.
So the Muyaga has done us bad. We only have 6.5 acres. Would have loved to have more, but the challenge is the question of land. The land is not enough, so we can't keep expanding the plantation at the expense of where we pick feeds for the animals. Recently got a storm. You can see how what it has done to the plantation.
Bananas, one would think, are the easiest to grow. However, this is not the case.
Bananas are not good at competing for nutrients in the soil, so you need to remove all the weeds or any other crops that are not supposed, that you don't grow any other crops in the plantation. So let the banana itself have as much nutrients to itself as possible without facing competition from the other plants. That's why you see in our plantation, we try as much as possible to fight the weeds by mulching, but also by fighting the weeds at an earlier stage. We also try as much as possible to do spacing, such that the bananas can have a bigger area in which to feed. But also we also do the pruning. On each stool you'll see a few banana plants. Usually the maximum we can allow are 4, but usually 4 in a line. Some farmers have gone ahead to lose their plantation because of poor mulching method. Mulching helps us to conserve moisture, it helps us to kill off the weeds, unwanted weeds, but also it can be detrimental to the farmer if it's not well done. For example, most farmers pull their mulching up to the spool, up to here, and you find that from the banana stem to the whole area, it's completely mulched. This is wrong, and we discourage it a lot because you encourage your plant to come up out of the ground, and eventually it will get uprooted. Now, the roots of this banana plant are basically looking for moisture. With moisture, then they are able to absorb the nutrients. As you mulch here, then you are encouraging these roots to come up and look for moisture. So in other words, your plant grows while getting out of the soil. So by extending the mulching away from this plant, we do 2 feet. As the roots are trying to come up, they encounter a hotter environment and they go back because they fear to be scorched. So they go back in the soil. Then until they go at a distance where they can come up and get the moisture they want. And because at a distance the moisture is well soaked in the ground, so you find they stay within the ground, picking the moisture and the nutrition that they want.
One has got to be careful on how they apply fertilizers or manure. We get an expert opinion from Nicholas on how to do this.
If my plant is not well manured or fertilized, and I find that its nutrition is poor, what we do is get like 1 wheelbarrow of the dung, well crushed, and we mix it around this banana stem. But we don't mulch them. Now, as this manure is seeping down in the ground, the roots around here quickly absorb the manure and quickly enhancing the growth of this plant. But as it is growing, it is sending more roots. Now, eventually, we also manure the other area surrounding it So it's able to grow and become stronger, and then later on able to pick the nutrients far away from where it is.
Nicholas further explains why the distance and what farmers should consider depending on the nature of the land. How do you plan for your plantation?
We are at a slope. If you see, our land is at a slope. So we are sloping downwards, and we don't want these the stems, the banana stem plants growing downwards. Because if you are at an incline, and as you are sloping downward, for a plant, it will be growing out of the soil. I don't know whether you understand me. The depth at which it is budding is a little bit smaller. Whereas when it's growing on the other side or horizontally here, it remains properly anchored in the soil. So if we were flat, we would allow it to go in any direction. But because we are at a slope, we encourage it to grow either sideways or upwards, where it remains properly anchored in the soil. But also, as there is some sort of runoff, that runoff comes with nutrients. Now, you don't want the nutrients to run away from your plant. You want the nutrition to come towards your plant. Do you understand that? Yeah, because if it is here, whatever falls here is being washed away. But as it faces the other side or this way, whatever comes finds it, and it acts as a stopper for that nutrition for this plant.
After investing so much, how is the market like?
What I've seen in agriculture is that the market for produce is there. The only challenge is either handling, post-harvest handling, transportation, and the price. Apart from that, we've not wasted any matoke that has gone unsold, and it is easily picked from the farm, but the only challenge is at what cost, at what price. So usually 10,000 is okay, but below 10,000 we also get it. It's a challenge. And when it's like now it shoots to 20,000 a bunch, sometimes you find you don't have it enough, because like we are coming from a drought, so the production is low.
When we come back from the break, get to know how to get hay for the cows. Nicholas takes us through the process it relates to zero grazing.
This grass was cut in the morning. We sent out the tractor with the slasher. We cut it in the morning. Now just by 4 o'clock we'll be able to pick it and then take it to our stores. The purpose of this, we can leave it here for a day or 2 or 3, but it might rain and then spoil our grass. That's one thing. But also secondly, the more we expose it to the sun, then we keep bleaching it. The sun scorches it, and then this thing loses color. As you lose the green color, then the nutrition also is lost. So we want it to dry and green. If it was economical, we would actually dry it in the shade. You actually dry out the moisture and leave it as green as this. But it's not economical, and we can't even attempt it. So now around 4 o'clock, we'll come and pick this and then put it in the store. Then tomorrow we cut another area, the same. We don't want to cut it at once, because we might fail to pick it out in a day. So we cut a small area, finish it out, then cut another area like that. But you see, as we cut it now, if we get rain, then the more grass grows. Then we cut again, more grows. So it's like a continuous thing. And this is natural grass. We are not going to till this place to add in anything. Anything we want to add in, we just bring the seeds and broadcast in. So we have a katogo, or a balanced diet of these different pastures. So whatever the cow picks, we'll pick this, pick that, and eat up everything.
Remember, we talked about irrigation. Well, Nicholas is testing these two methods to see how effective they can be before completely rolling out the system.
Although it looks like it's spraying a lot of water, but the other one beats it down, hands down. This sends more of vapor. The droplets are so small. So whenever there is wind, you find this side is less less watered and the other one is more. Secondly, now it becomes harder to plan at what intervals do you put them, because you can't predict the wind. Whereas the other one, because it sends bigger droplets, the wind doesn't shift the droplet much like this small vapor, water sort of vapor. So we find it more efficient, and it requires less pressure, and also within a short time the whole ground is wet. This is where we pump water from the valley point. That's the valley tank. The pump is in that structure. When I was buying this place in 2004, it was actually dry and with a small well there. And whenever it became the dry season, the people around here would move their cows to a different watering place. So what I did, I went to the road. I asked the neighbors to allow me to trench a small trench to channel water from runoff. And at the boundary of my farm, I just let the water into the farm. So one season, 2 seasons, on the 3rd season, water had saturated the ground. To this day, we never fail to get water during the wet season, the dry season.
Before I could leave this farm, I had to find out about the machinery I have seen. How does it contribute to this cause? Nicholas shares his first frustration as a farmer at the time.
This was the machine I started with. I bought this machine at 7 million. That was about 3 years ago. It had its engine, but we did silage for 1 season and it completely broke down. 1 season completely broke down. I only saved the engine. The machine could not be used again. As a farmer who is trying to invest his little resources into farming, and you buy a machine and within 1 season it's completely gone, then you need another 7 million, or let's say 5 million, because the engine was still working, to buy another machine. You've not even recouped your investment in that machine. So I got so frustrated. I had nothing to do. I said, let me look for a solution to this. I went on the internet, searched for quality forage choppers, and by luck I got a company from Brazil. And after a few interactions and talking about the quality of the machines and seeing other agencies they had over the world, I said, let me take a risk. So I bought 2 machines from there, which came by air. It was a huge investment, but I said, let me take a risk. So the machines have worked for me. One of them is the one you saw the other side, doing the milling of hay. The other one, I'll show it to you there. It's a tractor-driven one.
What started as frustration with a failed agriculture machine later turned out to be business. Nicholas is now also in the equipment business. Those are some of the achievements as he expands.
Now, when I brought them here and I used them, the excess capacity, I hired it to my neighbors, because they had also started doing this feed preservation, especially for their dry season feeding. Once some of the neighbors who used the machines and really saw the efficiency of those machines now wanted me to buy for them also. So the concept of equipment sales comes in. So I contacted them. They sold me more machines, which I sold to my neighbors. Later on, those who couldn't afford kept on hiring my equipment. Now we have about 5 machines for rental, but we also have the business part of the agricultural machinery. Some of these are the new machines that we are bringing in. You can see across. We are opening an outlet in Mbarara, so we are taking them to Mbarara. That's where they will be stationed. We have a few machines that we use at the farm, and whoever wants to buy them, we can send them to our outlet in Mbarara. So we have an outlet in Kampala and in Mbarara, but basically selling these quality machines from Brazil. Then we have our old tractor, which I bought from Port Potro second hand, tried to rehabilitate, but it's doing a wonderful job for me because I couldn't afford the brand new one. So this one is still working for me. It does the plowing, does the planting, does the slashing, so we do. And those ones, are the ones for rental. Those machines, yeah, we rent them out.
With farming, one has to be creative and keep reinventing. Nicholas too is not in a comfort zone. He has future plans on how to expand this enterprise.
Our future plans for this farm is one, our target, let me say, is to produce 1,000 liters from 50 lactating animals. That's one. But on top of, once we've gotten the 1,000 liters, and probably if we get power, then we start making milk products, yogurt, pasteurized milk for a certain market. And it's whole milk. Nothing is removed, nothing is added. So that once I have that, and I've already started on that system, and the response is good.
Like any successful entrepreneur, planning ahead of time is usually mandatory. Nicholas has all this at his fingertips.
This is our new milking parlor. We are constructing it as a milking parlor. The cow will be there, and you have a milker in the middle and another cow here. We have a milking machine. We installed it some time back, but because we don't have utility power, it was not efficient to use diesel. So as we anticipate to get power, we are also setting up this. Then we start using the milking machine. And even the milk will be going up after removing from the milking bucket. Then we send it up for weighing and onward processing, so that you don't have any other contamination on the lower side. Our calving animals will be sent there for labor, and then for monitoring, and afterwards they join the rest. This is a new structure that we are trying to work on. Basically by May we think we should be able to have the cows inside. My thinking is, my appeal to the people is, dive into the water, dive into the sector, do what you can, be creative, and everything will work your way.